The rejection letter from Abbey Road, I don't know if that's still up there.
It is.
Yeah. That, somebody else, I don't know who, that one was a prank. I don't know who did it. Somebody wrote a letter to Abbey Road pretending to be me asking for a job. And then I got a rejection letter. The thing what makes it funny is that letter would have ended up on the desk of Alan Parsons, right? And that was when that letter was written was just after I had been at Abbey Road for an extended period working on a couple of records. And Alan Parsons and I had sort of become cordial. Like we knew each other. Like sure. I knew him, he knows me, blah, blah, blah. He was the managing director of Abbey Road at the time. So when that letter came in, Alan Parsons would have known that it was a joke. And so his getting them to send a formal reply back to me would have been a joke. Like it was like a pro forma thing that on everyone's part it was a joke. Like every sure. single, there was no legitimate transaction at any stage of that. Like me getting the rejection letter in the mail was like, what the fuck? And then, oh yeah, okay, now I see what's happened. And then him getting the application letter or getting a letter looking for a job would have been a what the fuck? Oh, now I see what's going on. I was like, at every hop in the trip, it would have been sort of obviously insincere.
Every part was a joke except the part where you felt bad about not getting a job at Abbey Road.
Yeah, I would not have. I do not want and would not want a job at Abbey Road. It's a terrific studio, terrific place to go, but being part of one of those big British industrial corporations where they like everything is bureaucratic would just be fucking nightmare.
How long were you working with?
I mean, I've made quite a few records there.
Okay.
I've probably made a dozen or more records at Abbey Road, but that was after I had been there for about 5 months working on this Jimmy Page and Robert Plant record, which is by far the longest I've ever worked on a single project. But I was there every day for 5 months, so I got to know everybody.
Yeah. Yeah, like what?
How can you?
What were you doing every day?
It was different shit every day. Like they had every day I would show up and there would be there would have been things that I would have been expected to have done overnight. Like on their way out at the end of a session, they'd be like, "Okay, we need a rough mix of this. I want to hear this take of that guitar solo, but moved into that take of the song." Like we need an instrumental of this song to send to this guy for a film commercial, for a film licensing or whatever. So I would have all of this sort of busy work to do after they'd left for the day, and then all that would be done, and they wouldn't always ask to listen to it the next day. But if they did ever ask to listen to anything that they had requested, and I hadn't done it, I would have been fired on the spot. Right. So I had to do all of this stuff, knowing that a lot of it was never going to get heard, and none of it, it was like. But so, like, they'd finish work in the studio at like 6 or 7 in the evening, and I would keep working until 11, 12, 1 in the morning to finish all the stuff for the next day. Then they'd come in the next day, and we'd start in on something else, or maybe they'd listen to the shit that I'd done or whatever.
When did the day start the next day?
I was in the studio from 9 o'clock in the morning. They were usually in between 10 and 11. And then it would go until 6 or 8 in the evening.
So was it like 5 months of not sleeping?
Well, I mean, it's about the same as here,
Yeah.
And then, but I mean, there were certain things about it that made life tolerable. Like they didn't work on Sundays.
Okay.
They often gave me chores to execute over the weekend. Like at the end of Saturday's session, they would give me sort of a larger list of chores of things to get ready for Monday. And then, so I would sometimes work on Sundays, but most of the time I would have Sunday off, which is fine by me. And then, it was a pleasant working relationship, like they're terrific musicians, and everybody they had working with them were terrific musicians, and they'd have these outlandish ideas on the spur of the moment, but they had the resources to do them. So like on Wednesday, Robert would say to Jimmy, "Be nice if there was an orchestra here in this part of the song." And then, 12 hours later, there's an arranger who's written a complete score for this orchestral addition to a song. Jimmy Page and the arranger are going over it, listening to this demo that he's done. The day after that, Nigel Kennedy and 24 chairs from the London Symphony Orchestra are there at Abbey Road, ready to record this orchestral thing. It's like fucking insane what they could pull off.
Yeah.
Just having infinite money at your disposal makes life really great.
Wow.
So, I mean, it was great. The whole experience was really great, But it was, from the beginning, it was clear that there was, they made all the artistic decisions and they ran the band. And I was just sort of the technical help in it. But I was happy to do it, It's a great experience.
Did you mix the record too?
Yeah. And, everything, everything about the experience was great from my end.
Yeah.
There are better records in the world. That's not really, not really here or there. But it was, just the experience of doing it was great.
Yeah, I'm sure. So would you
incredible war stories too. Just
I can imagine. I can't imagine. Yeah.
They've lived like deities walking on, like gods walking the earth. They've lived like that since they were fucking teenagers.
Yeah.
It's just incredible the shit.
So would you have dinner with them and stuff? And
typically lunch would be on the session. Breakfast was on me. Lunch was on the session. And dinner was on me. Meaning, if there was a break in the session in the middle of the day for lunch, we typically would have lunch at the canteen at Abbey Road. Like there's a cafeteria there.
Yeah.
But if I wanted a breakfast, I had to pay for it myself. And if I wanted a dinner, I had to pay for it myself.
Yeah.
But they could have an orchestra come in.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, and they didn't socialize that much, but we did some. Like they went to a Rolf Harris gig, and they invited me and Heather and my wife and our friends were a couple of friends were in town, and we went to go see Rolf Harris play the didgeridoo and wobble board. And there he is doing a fucking didgeridoo version of Stairway to Heaven. Jimmy Page and Robert Plant. It was fucking insane. Yeah, it was a lot of it was great. A lot of the thing was just totally surreal experiences, like having Robert Plant ask my wife what she thought of this band Slint, Shit like that is just...
Were you into Zeppelin growing up?
Not really, no. You have to acknowledge how important they were. Like, even if you're not into that music, they were like a cornerstone band,
Yeah.
And those records are impeccable. Like the records are really, really remarkable sounding records for the era and of all time. They're just great sounding records, and all made under like the most insane conditions. Like a basic track done on a mobile truck in a fucking barn, and then an overdub done after a gig in New York, and then the mix done, like high as fucking bird pussy in Los Angeles, and then every song on the record is like that, the complete patchwork. But they all sound amazing. Like they sound incredible. Just the consistent, really remarkable quality of those records is just unmatched. Like nobody's ever had a run of 4 or 5 records that good ever. And so there's that, and then also like they're part of the vocabulary. And bands that I like wouldn't have existed without that. Yeah. So the fact that I wasn't into them at the time doesn't really mean anything regarding my appreciation for them. And over time, of course, I came to develop an appreciation of Led Zeppelin just because those records are awesome. But like when I was a teenager and Led Zeppelin were a current band, I was not into that music.
Sure.
Mainly because I was not into the people who were into that music.
Sure. Yeah.
But all that stuff falls away, and you're left with just the records, and the records are fucking amazing. And like some of the most incredible musicians,
Oh yeah.
Like John Bonham, widely regarded as the greatest rock drummer of all time. I think he's totally underrated. I think he's like a fucking landmark musician,
Right.
Just and the same with Jimmy Page and John Paul Jones, And Robert Plant, as irritating as his vocal style could be, fucking owns it. Like nobody could shake him from any of that stuff. Like you know, like there's something about a dude that's just so completely convinced of his greatness that you're just like, you know, you're right. You are. That's kind of incredible what you're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's something about that just completely wins me over. I mean, it could be like a fucking bucket drummer, you know, like in the subway. Like, it's just somebody that's like so owns his thing. It's like, yeah, I am the baddest at this, you know.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, you are, you know.
Right.
I really like that. It's not the same as like somebody like sort of pompously like thinking highly of himself.
Like false.
It's just like he just really enjoys his own thing. Like just loves savors the smell of his own fart. You know, just, you know, and that's like there's something about that you just can't help but be charmed by.
Yeah. Right.